What is up, everyone? For those of you who have been around for quite a while, you may recognize this PC. This is, of course, the PC I built for my parents back in February of 2013. So, February coming up, this will be 6 years. No, hang on a second. February coming up, this will be 7 years old. Wow. I just had to think about it then. So we've had February 2019, so yeah, this is nearly 7 years old. I can't believe it. Nearly 7 years ago I built this thing. And since I built it, I haven't touched it. Well, technically I haven't touched it. During the original build, I ordered one RAM stick, one 4GB stick of RAM. And what I did later on, a couple of months down the line, when I dismantled my PC, I had two spare sticks of 2GB DDR3, and I put those sticks in this machine instead of that single stick of 4GB. But you know, that was just a quick alteration. This hasn't been touched in all of that time. It's still the original specs. It's still just plodding away, running, doing its thing. So I'm chuffed to bits that it's lasted this long and it's still going strong. What we're doing today is something just really minor. We're just adding a hard drive. When I built this machine, it had a 120GB SSD. It still has that SSD and it is about nearly full. So the only thing that my parents really store of substantial size are photos. And of course, eventually even photos take up enough space to, you know, warrant the upgrade of a drive, especially if the original drive's only 120GB. So what I'm going to do is, sorry folks, a good start to today's video, dead battery already. The 3 batteries that I've got with me are all showing low battery, so yeah, top marks for preparation. Anyway, I'm going to keep the 120GB SSD for boot and programs, and then I'm going to install a 320GB SATA hard drive that is going to host all of the user folders, so like desktop, pictures, documents, music, blah blah blah. I'm going to change the location of all those folders. Right now I'm doing a backup of the entire drive to this external drive right here. It's blinking away. This drive should be doing an automatic backup, but it hasn't been doing so for a couple of years, so that's quite scary. I'm going to sort that today as well. I can't even remember how I originally configured that, but this is a 500GB external drive, so it'll still cover the SSD and the hard drive just fine. I've got a quick transfer going now, just finishing off the backup of a few files before I fiddle too much. And I did watch the build video yesterday to remind myself of the specs of this machine. This is an AMD A8 5600K APU based machine, currently running at 3.6 GHz. It turbos to 3.9, I believe, and there's that 4 gigs of RAM, and of course the 120GB SSD. It's got a nice Gigabyte ultra durable board in it. It's got a nice Corsair CX PSU. Sony optical drive, fractal design, Core 1000 case. So it's a nice machine, and man, I am chuffed that it has lasted all of this time, and it's showing no signs of really slowing down. So I'm very excited that I've been able to give my parents maximum value out of the investment, because this wasn't an expensive build. Maybe it was like a 300 quid build at a guess back in 2013. Maybe 350 with that SSD. Obviously the reason I'd put 120GB SSD in there was back then 120GB was the sort of max available size for affordability. The price per gigabyte went pretty crazy, anything above that, 250GB or whatever. But yeah, we're going to let this do its backup. I'm going to hopefully charge up some batteries, and we're going to bung a drive in this guy. So guys, we've got some nice natural light here coming in through the window. I think this is the best place to do it. Ooh. Thumb screws on the side. Very handy. Let's crack this open and have a little look and see how dusty it is. I believe there's a dust filter in the front of this case. There's only a single fan. I left the single stock 140mm front fan in, and I think there's a dust filter on it. I'm not 100% sure though, there's something there. But yeah, this is the inside of the PC, and as you guys can see, it's looking okay. As you'd expect for this length of time, there is a solid layer of dust on the bottom and just laying on top of all of the components, but it's not crazy bad. What we'll do is pop the hard drive in this location, right here. That's where you can pop the second drive in this case. Bit of an odd design with this case and the hard drive mounting. That's one thing that I don't love about it. And when I was building my sister's PC not too long ago, I felt the same way about it. Yeah, of course I'm going to have to look and see about power, because I know that we've got SATA going up to the optical drive there, and also SATA coming down here. Oh, but it's already sorted, look. Just yoink out of the SSD, pop that guy into the SSD, and then this guy for the hard drive. So SATA power is sorted. In terms of the drive then, folks, we've sort of come full circle, because a little while ago, you guys will remember that my dad gave me a Sky Plus HD box, and I believe this Seagate is the drive that came out of that. I'm not 100% sure, because I do lose track with drives, but it's good to put it to good use rather than it just sitting on my shelf. So there are the mounts for the drive. What I don't have is any of these screws for the case or anything like that, so we're just going to have to make do with what I've managed to salvage to bring with me. So I will try and get this guy screwed in, and then we will connect it up on camera. So I got the drive screwed in, folks. It was a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be. The screws that I brought with me weren't ideal, because they weren't long enough to get through these rubber grommets. So I found some thumb screws up here, and I was wondering why they were there. So I unscrewed them, screwed them in the drive here, and it turns out they were just holding in a little 5 1/4 to 3 1/2 inch drive adapter that sat in the second 5 1/4. So it's still held in from the other side. Obviously it's just a little adapter, so it's, you know, it's not going anywhere without those screws. And then the drive is held in with 2 thumb screws that are really tight and on the rubber grommets, and that's not going anywhere either. So yeah, and this has kind of made me think a little bit. What I've decided to do now, while I was screwing this drive in, is if I build a system for someone, what I'm going to do, the little box that comes with the case, or the motherboard box, or any small box really that I get with their stuff, I'm going to put all of their screws in, all of their bits and bobs, label it as whose PC it is, stick it on one of my shelves, and just leave it with myself. Because what happens, I tend to find, if you give people bits and bobs, screws and stuff with their PCs, they end up losing them or whatever. I didn't give mum and dad screws, I've got them somewhere, I don't have a clue where they are. And that's my next point. If I don't make a point of properly storing them and dedicating them as, you know, these are the screws for upgrading mum and dad's PC or whoever's PC that I build, then I use them for something else, and I don't have any screws that I can use for their case. So, you know, in this instance where you need longer than standard screws, I didn't have them. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to start doing. And if I come across... I probably kept it all in one place, I just don't know where it is. Anyway, that's a little lesson for myself. I'm going to connect all of this stuff now, and then I'll show you guys one more look, and we'll close up the case. We're not going to be cleaning the case today, folks. I'm just going to leave it as it is. It's not too bad at all. All of the fans are completely free and everything. The dust itself is just stuck to where it's stuck. We'll clean it again in the future when we next do something with it. I'm sort of not in a rush today. I'm just up here really quickly to do this for them this morning, and then it's a Sunday today, so go and spend some time with the family and that, and do something really nice. So let's get this wrapped up. Ah, guys, this is not good news. Because of the layout of the drives, I can't actually connect power to the 2 drives and the optical drive at the same time. There's 2 stems of SATA connections on this PSU, each with 2 SATA connectors. As you can see, I've got one plugged into the SSD at the bottom there. It doesn't reach the top. The one plugged into the optical drive, the second port on it doesn't reach the SSD. So I can get to the top and bottom, but I can't get to the middle. And to add insult to injury, I thought something like this may happen, so I put a Molex to SATA adapter in my bag, and really annoyingly, for some bizarre reason, the one that I picked up from all sorts of adapters hanging around has a female Molex end. So I can't physically connect it to the Molex connectors on the PSU, because obviously I need a male Molex to SATA power. So I'm going to have a dig through some of the very minimal amounts of remaining crap that I have upstairs in this house to see if I've got anything that can help me out with this. After a load of trouble, I managed to get it in the 3 1/2 inch adapter over there. It's not ideal. I will move it really soon because I've only been able to attach it with 2 screws because of the depth of this bay and the way that it was all working out, and stuff that I had and everything. So this red SATA cable is coming from the drive. I will come back and we'll do like a part 2 where we tidy this up. We'll give it a good clean out. We'll reconfigure the drives. We'll get a little extension cable for the drives, little SATA extension and stuff like that. So we'll work it all out. But for now, we'll just run it like this until we have time to revisit it in the future, because I'm running out of time today. So let's get the side panel back on and let's boot it up. So guys, the drive is set up, and all I'm basically doing now is going through all of the folders. So I'm on desktop at the moment. There's 20 gigs of stuff on the desktop, and just changing the location to the E drive, which is the hard drive that I just put in. Turns out it wasn't from the Skybox after all. It was from a PC that I took apart and salvaged the drive. The Skybox had a 500 gig in it, I believe, thinking back. So yeah, this is a very similar drive, Seagate, just on my shelf. And I do know where the Skybox one is, so that's absolutely fine. Just going to move this data. It won't take too long because we're going from SATA to SATA, from the SSD to the drive. It's a decently okay speed drive, just a standard desktop 7200 RPM drive. So I waited quite a while for this USB backup. Won't be waiting so long for the internal, which is nice. All seems to be working okay. Obviously, because the drive was from another PC, I booted it up and I was like, what is going on? Because it tried to boot from that drive. There was an install of Windows and some partitions and stuff, but I just formatted it. And we are now just here with a nice blank storage disk. So I'm done for shuffling around today. Got a few more files to tidy up, but I've freed up way more space on the system disk by moving over to the other drive for the majority of the folders, and also got a good recent backup that I've run. So I'm very happy with this layout. And yeah, we're going to call it a day for this upload. Expect a part 2 at some point where I actually clean the PC, tidy up that wiring, mount the disc in a better way. Once I find some better screws, get some SATA extension cables, and just make a tidier job of it really. But for now, this is functional, and yeah, hope you've enjoyed this little upload, something a bit different, something a bit more Windowsy. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.